I, of course, was born in New Orleans, and I started playing around with the piano when I was about 6 years old. I was actually going to a neighbor's house, and she had one of those old upright pianos, and it was not in the greatest of tune, but it was something for me to play with. And I knew nothing about music technically, but I always knew that I liked the sound of it, and I always wanted to try to imitate what people did on the piano. When I went to the Louisiana State School for the Blind, when I was actually volunteered to take piano lessons, and that's what the lady said to me. She said, I'm going to volunteer you to take piano lessons. And I was 7, going on just about my 8th year of life. I didn't always like it. I didn't like starting to take piano lessons. My desire at that time was to hang out with the kids and play football and whatever else, which was kind of mostly nothing. So I'd lose my books on purpose. I'd lose my piano primer on purpose. And the teacher would always find it and get me going again. And then in the 5th grade, I got called in to do an arrangement for 2 trombone players and a piano, which was me at the time. And I didn't know what in the world I was going to do, but I came up with 2 songs, and voila, we played it on an assembly, and all the little girls liked it. And I said, "Oh man, that was fantastic. I think I might stick with this for a while." In the 9th grade, I actually started working with a band professionally. When I was 14, I would stay in Baton Rouge in the summertime, in the summer months, and just kind of work with these guys. We played all the local clubs and that kind of thing. Alvin Batiste, I had a long history with that man. I first met him when I went to Southern University. I met him in the hall of the music building, and he kind of heard me play in one of the practice rooms, and he came up to me. I remember him doing this, and he came up to me. He said, "Hey man, you want to do an arrangement for the marching band?" I said, "Oh yeah, man, I'd love to do that." So I was playing. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and so James Brown was big in those days. So I was doing. He says, "Oh yeah, man, you can do that. That's fine." So basically, I could write things out, but I wasn't sure how to convey to somebody else at the time how I wanted it written. So, and we didn't have the time for me to write it in Braille and then dictate it to him, right? So basically what he did was just listen to what I played and wrote it out. And then the next football game, they were playing it. And the more he talked, I mean, this is over a period of time, the more I realized that this guy was special, and that I needed to, come out of that darkness and maybe pay a little more attention to what he had to say. So I enrolled in his jazz studies program. And for 19 and 20-year-old kids at that time, that was fun, and it was, Yeah, and it was different. You know, it was different. We would go to every festival we went to, we won. And it wasn't that we had the facilities or the money. It was just that when we competed against North Texas State and Loyola in New Orleans and Fredonia in New York, they were dealing with more technical things. And when they heard Alvin's arrangements, you know, it would just drive those people crazy. They just scream, they were screaming, and just, it was just so different. He was dedicated to working with ghetto kids, you know, and I was one. You know, I was a kid from the Calliope projects in New Orleans. I mean, I've come a long way, believe me. Had a marathon lesson with the professor and really liked what he did for me. I mean, he'd say, play a boogie for me. And I'd play what came to mind as a boogie for me. And he said, well, I wouldn't play it like that, I'd play it like this. And then he'd proceed to demonstrate what he had in mind. And then we were talking about things like shuffles and all that. And then he would say, he said something like, you know, you play the piano too hard. If you play it softer, you might move faster. So I've been working on that ever since he told me. I first heard Roosevelt Sykes when I went to a jazz festival in New Orleans. This was probably mid-70s or so. Roosevelt Sykes not only was an inspiration, but he had so much energy. Gosh, that guy, man, he could get a crowd going in a heartbeat. I mean, and he had a very energetic voice with a lot of resonance. I wasn't sure how he did that. Music is one of the great communicators. Music has allowed me to not only meet hundreds of thousands of people over the years that I've been a performer, but it allows me to convey many of the feelings that I have in my mind and in my heart to my audiences. And it does it in a way that you can't necessarily see it. It's all about the feeling, and it's all about the sound, and it's all about how you choose to phrase something. You know, I could play 3 notes in at least 3 ways. And I mean, and that's the easy part, because you have 3 notes. You can accent the first note and then accent the second or accent the third. And in the context of whatever you're playing, that will usually say something different or say something to the audience, to the listener, you know, depending on how you're choosing to phrase it. I love music because it conveys happiness if you're feeling that, sadness if you're feeling that, if you're feeling something in between, you can get that generally. I, through my music, like to think that I inform and inspire, uplift, encourage, And maybe if I'm really in rare form, might be able to heal somebody out there.